What's up, friends? It's Endymion, and yes, it's unfortunately that time again to review the newest episodes of Velma and all the insanity surrounding it. I watched it so that you don't have to, but you're probably wondering, did it get any better this week? No. To be honest, it's impressive how unwilling this show is with trying to justify its own existence. The 5th episode is essentially filler, with the big conflict being that the town has implemented a curfew at 9 p.m. for everyone. This curfew means that any events planned are now cancelled, and if you're caught outside past this point, you get arrested. Around this curfew announcement, the Crystal Cove High School band was supposed to have a sleepover in the gymnasium. But because of said curfew, the sleepover is instead relocated to Velma's house. This results in a chaotic situation where Velma is being pulled in every direction while trying to appease everyone's needs. It's also terribly uninteresting and had me looking out of my window debating what I'm doing with my life as I watched it. I also noticed that the chubby ginger kid who got his leg chopped off when Fred threw that paper cutter earlier in the season just has his leg back with no explanation. Either this kid's a lizard, or I guess Velma's trying to pull Family Guy gags, although way less funny. Another big development is that Shaggy now has a girlfriend named Gigi, who's one of the hot girls from episodes 3 and 4. There was quite a bit of discourse online about a potential leak that Gigi's name was actually going to be revealed as Scooby, but this is not the case. And don't worry, we do learn how Scooby-Doo fits into this modern reimagining. I'll get to that, but first, this whole Shaggy has a girlfriend thing starts to irk Velma. And it's not because Velma likes Shaggy, but because now that Shaggy is taken, she can't manipulate him and bend him to her every will. There's also a scene where Velma is looking for Shaggy and shows a photo of him that she drew, which is dumb because social media exists and everyone has phones, like just show a photo of him. And the joke is further stretched by Velma explaining Shaggy's physical features by saying he has blue eyes. The joke here is that Velma cares so little and pays almost no attention to Shaggy that she doesn't even know his eye color or any discernible physical traits of him. But the underlying joke here is that Velma doesn't remember what Shaggy looks like because he's not white, and Mindy Kaling only likes white guys, which is messed up. But anyways, besides Shaggy moving on, we also have Fred, who continues down his new character path of becoming more like a male feminist. This is obviously done to be comedic, but it just comes off as tone deaf and kind of eye-rolling.
Also win your heart by proving I am a helpful ally, sister. Look, I'm glad reading the feminine mystique caused a little breath.
Shush, a feminist is speaking, and he listened to your theory about it.
Dr. Emmett Purdue was a female neurologist.
You don't need to say female, Velma. You can just say neurologist.
I will commend the writers at least for being aware enough to realize that people who virtue signal themselves as allies, like Fred is doing here, are usually just posing as allies in order to get something in return, and are usually the very predators they are so openly against. At least the Velma writers and I agree on something, which is that male feminists are about as authentic as making a wild crocodile your kid's babysitter. There's also this subplot where Daphne finds her real parents in an abandoned mine on the outskirts of town. It turns out Daphne's parents are career criminals who've been living in the mine for years as they steal and smuggle various goods. I will give credit where it's due though, as we find out the inmate guy who was friends with Fred in prison turns out to be Daphne's dad. That was a nice touch. But unfortunately, this subplot doesn't really amount to much of anything, with the only revelation being that Daphne's parents genuinely do not care about her existence whatsoever. They only see her as a convenient scapegoat so that they can use her for their smuggling operation. This entire Daphne's parents subplot literally just ends with her parents escaping the cops, and Daphne embracing her two moms as being her true parents going forward. Which I guess is nice, but if that's all the backstory they could come up with Daphne as a character, it's a waste in my opinion. You had Daphne being alluded to being a descendant of ancient Asian warriors, then we find out her parents are career criminals. And that's it. You could have taken it further, but what can I expect from this show at this point? Let's be real. At least we also find out that Daphne's mom smoked like crazy when Daphne was still in the womb, so that's nice that we're making fun of poisoning kids before they're born. They also make fun of alcoholism at one point and say that maybe it's not all that bad, and to get serious for a second, as someone whose dad actually died from alcoholism, it's literal hell. So thanks Velma writers, very cool, you guys definitely understand what is truly funny these days, except not at all. There's a lot of parental bonding and exposing in these latest episodes too. We find out that Velma's dad is having an affair with a coworker, and that Shaggy's dad is a beta male, which is their words, not mine, and this show continues to make every straight white male character into a sniveling weak joke because modern audience reasons. There's also another subplot where Velma is being replaced by her stepmom and new half-sister Amanda, and that plot just reminds me of this.
Why are you looking at me like that? What's up, little bud? Got a staring problem, pal?
Like what, dude? He's just looking at you. He's a baby.
Look at his face. Dumb little face.
Stop.
Yo, Zen, get your boy, dog.
Then we get to the big, huge reveal of these latest episodes, which is how Velma as a show decided to integrate Scooby-Doo into it, and it's... just let me explain it to you. It turns out that the government wanted to create a project that would allow the transferring of an adult soldier's mind into the body of a young teen. The reason for this was because the government wanted to be able to infiltrate the younger generations in order to control them, because the government saw the youth as the biggest threat to the American way of life. This entire operation was spearheaded by Shaggy's grandmother, who had a secret military-funded laboratory in her basement. That same house, after Shaggy's grandmother went to a mental asylum, would end up being purchased by Fred's dad. Are you following it okay so far? Because it gets worse. So that secret lab now resides under Fred's house, and it's also the last place that Velma's mother was seen. So it's all a big conspiracy. It turns out the military even had a name for this operation, and, well, just see for yourself.
We called the program the Special Covert Operations Brain Initiative, or Scooby. Scooby? And wait, what did Scooby do? It attempted to create the perfect spy by swapping people's brains. Oh, did it work? No.
That's right, Scooby is not a dog in this version, but instead it's an acronym for a secret government research project. I wish I was kidding, I really do, but that's how they did it here. I know it's awful, but let me know what you think as always. So it seems the murders of the young teenagers has a very obvious direct connection to this Scooby project. Likely someone who's aware of it is trying to swap the minds of young teens with that of military-grade soldiers because they want to control the youth, I guess? But then why would you kill the teens? Wouldn't you just kidnap them first? Like, if someone dies then miraculously comes back to life later with a new brain, people are going to start asking questions. Why wouldn't the serial killer kidnap these kids, swap the brains, and then release them back as if nothing happened? Or couldn't the military just emit radio waves and then brainwash everyone, or put some hocus pocus military mumbo jumbo in the water supply to make the population more controllable? I'm spitballing here, but any explanation is better than this. If you've seen any of my other awful Velma videos, you know that I think this show desperately needs Scooby-Doo in it, and unfortunately this new revelation just completely removes that possibility. What's crazy to me is that even the woke feminists hate this show, with the recent article on autostraddle.com called "Even Velma and Daphne's Queer Romance Can't Save Mindy Kaling's Scooby-Doo Prequel." The writer Heather Hogan even says, and I quote, "Mindy Kaling's Scooby-Doo prequel Velma wants to be Harley Quinn meets Riverdale, which frankly sounds awesome. Throw in Jane Lynch and Wanda Sykes as Daphne's moms, a friends to enemies to crushes romance between Velma and Daphne, and 3/4 of the main Mystery Inc. players becoming people of color. It should have been the easiest slam dunk in history. The reviews were so bad the first weekend, 6% on Rotten Tomatoes, the lowest rating I've ever seen. I simply refused to write about it. I felt hopeful it would get at least a little better. Alas. We're now 6 episodes into HBO's much hyped adult cartoon, and instead of uncovering things to like because the show is finding its footing, Velma is somehow getting even less interesting and even less funny. Every episode is a cringy, eye-rolling slog that doesn't seem to have any idea who its audience is, yet seems to despise them all the same. End quote. You know you've done goofed when even the feminists are hating your woke disaster. And it was even reported recently that somehow, even with its dismal reviews, Velma continues to achieve new levels of awful. It's been reported that Velma is now the worst rated animated show on IMDb ever in the history of that site. On a scale of 1 to 10, Velma is sitting at 1.3 with over 52,000 votes. The only shows that beat Velma in its awfulness are The Pogmentary, which is a documentary about the football player Paul Pogba, and a Turkish musical drama named İşte Bu Benim Mauzoleum. I've never heard of these shows. Also, Mindy Kaling and the show's creator Charlie Grandi spoke on what drove them to make this abomination. Mindy had this to say, quote, "The original Scooby-Doo, which we're such a fan of, is also really rooted in another era and reflective of the cultural landscape of the 60s and the 70s and what people traditionally put on TV," Kaling said. "It just felt like if we can have the characters be anything, why not do something new?" Then Charlie Grandi said, quote, "It started with Mindy saying, 'I'm voicing Velma, what makes the most sense?' What Mindy was attracted to in the character and what I loved was that the smartest of the gang that solved the mysteries got no credit. Going from that, why not just expand the diversity of the cast?" End quote.
Since assigning personal police details to the hottest of you, we've been getting a little pushback on the police presence in school. But, twist, it's from the police.
Uh-oh, I just rear-ended a cop.
In fact, the officers on detail have all resigned, citing unrelenting sexual harassment.
Even Mashable.com is throwing hands at Mindy Kaling as they say her work is dividing South Asian audiences. The article goes on to say, quote, "These female characters are often outspoken, sex-obsessed, self-deprecating, and occasionally lack interest in or knowledge of their cultural roots. And if Twitter and TikTok have anything to say recently, these on-screen figures are not the representation they asked for." People posted clips from Velma at first, hitting back at the show's jokes written about Velma Dinkley's body hair and Indian desserts. One TikToker said, "South Asian girls deserve better." Another said, "Velma feels like a setback in so many ways." Many of the series' one-liners have been touted as tired portrayals of what it means to be South Asian on Western television. Attention has since turned to Kaling's previous work. Characters like Devi Vishwakumar from Never Have I Ever and Bella Malhotra from The Sex Lives of College Girls are now being critiqued in hindsight. Viewers are honing in on dialogue and scenes in which girls, young, brown, immigrant daughters, either question their physical appearances or resent their backgrounds.
I know I used to clown on this every year, but the truth is, I kind of miss Pooja.
Are you kidding? When I get into Princeton, I'm never coming back. I'm gonna be an atheist who eats cheeseburgers every day with my white boyfriend.
Kaling is a product of a time when she was one of few, likely being asked to draw caricatures and oftentimes writing for the white gaze. Kaling has undeniably increased frequency and prominence of South Asian women on TV. Now Kaling's characters like her are grappling with being on screen where they have not existed historically as heroines in the spotlight. It is this ingrained issue, perhaps even this pressure, that is leading to heightened scrutiny. Scrutiny? I can't say it, whatever, end quote. Anyway, that's where we're at currently with Velma. I've never seen a show so universally hated and panned by everyone this way. Usually there's apologists somewhere screaming that it's good, but when it comes to Velma, it's official. This show is awful, it continues to delegitimize South Asian representation, it ruined the Scooby-Doo legacy, and its biggest offense of all is that it's just not funny or entertaining to watch. HBO Max needs to just take Velma out back and just put 2 mercy shots in the back of its head at this point. This show is miserable, I'm tired, and in the end, Velma truly is nuclear levels of awful. And there's still quite a few episodes to go. Oh, wondrous joy. I can't wait.
Scooby? And wait, what did Scooby do?